Mio, we're going back to my trauma days. Not everybody's gonna see the goal. Not everybody's gonna see the vision, and that's okay. They don't have to see the vision. I wanna be a criminal, man. I wanna be, I wanna be like one of the greatest criminals of all time. And he looks at me, he's like, Mijo, if you ever say that again, I'm gonna send you to military school.
Diego Tinoco!
I'm Diego Tinoco.
I am Diego Tinoco from On My Block.
Anybody can say the lines. You can get anybody in the world to say the line. That's not what the studio's paying you for, or that's not what the director's searching for.
How do you feel about fame?
Dude, it's
Oh, you don't like it? Well, this is the way I am. Am I really that? Or is that my trauma speaking?
And I sat down, sacrificed 1 hour of my time, and that 1 hour changed my entire life.
For those of you that don't know Diego, he is on an amazing hit show called On My Block. He's an incredible artist. Give it up. Okay. That was the first music video.
That was my first music video ever. Yeah, we shot that within 48 hours. And I said, I want to start performing. We have so much love from the incredible fans and family that I have supporting my brand, Sangre Mia. I look at my manager, Carlo. I'm like, Carlo, I want to shoot a music video literally in like 2 days. And he calls up his friends who are incredible dancers. Shout out to Eileen. We found this location the next day, and literally like within 48 hours, we were shooting the music video with my boy Brian right here. And we did it guerrilla style, For so long, I thought in my head that you needed like Universal and you needed like these big fancy red eye cameras and all of this like gear and this entire like team and equipment and all this stuff. And I was holding myself back with that belief because yes, while you do need, some production, of course, you can accomplish so much with just a few incredible friends and talent and, an incredible DP like my boy Brian right here. And we literally shot that so fast, and I'm so proud of how it turned out. There were so many headaches that came with it, though. Originally, we went to this the first location in Malibu Beach where we were going to go shoot it, and the tide washed the entire sand, so we couldn't shoot it there. And we were losing daylight. We're like, vamos, corre, let's go to the next beach and the next beach. We ended up checking out 3 beaches. And then finally, we saw that incredible location that we didn't plan on the day. And I'm really proud of how it turned out. I love how it turned out. I love, cinematically how it looks. And, as they say, there's your plan and there's life's plan. Life's plan always wins. You got to move with it.
Well, you touched on so many things there, which is like amazing.
It was the cafecito. Sorry about that.
But it's a great way to start, because you mentioned beliefs, hardship, and life. And I wasn't going to touch this right away, but we're going to touch it. We're already here. So belief systems is something very interesting because we all have them.
Yeah.
Right? Like one day you were a little kid walking and your mom said, don't touch that because and so you're like, you start being scared. Or if, hardships, we all have them, and everything in life I truly believe is a lesson. But we've been taught to be so afraid of hard times. Anytime you go through something and you go to a friend and they're like, hey, I'm going through this. Don't worry. The light at the end of the tunnel. Nobody ever tells you, why don't you just sit in the fire? Like in the fire, learn how to dance in the hardship.
Yeah.
Learn how to be happy when everything around you seems like it's collapsing.
Yeah.
Because what it does is that the lesson's there. And it touches on the last point, which is the universe.
Yeah.
We are, I think, the only form that thinks that we have control. Like we really believe that we control everything around it and that we try.
Yeah.
And the universe does, you planned 2 days to do this perfect beach.
Yeah.
Here you go. Just so you learn.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I love that. That brings me back, because we're going to touch back on that point.
Yeah.
That brings me back for why I was so excited to have you here, because I got a lot of questions about acting. See, in another life, I was Will Smith.
Oh,
I was in Bad Boys. I was just, I was rolling around. I thought I made it. In my head, though. In my head. I don't know if I can act. But I reading your story and doing the research about your life and your career, I saw a lot of similarities with mine. First, starting with that, making that jump to LA. Talk to me about the moment from decision, let's go back a couple of years, to actually getting there and facing the reality of roommates and, in my case, there was no fridge, there was no essential air.
The ramen diet is real.
Ramen.
Yeah.
Talk to me about those times.
We're going back to my trauma days, huh? So yeah, growing up, I really enjoyed watching movies with Leonardo DiCaprio, Al Pacino, Robert De Niro, Goodfellas, Public Enemies, The Departed, all these movies, right? And originally, I remember telling my dad, I was like, I want to be a criminal, man. I want to be, I want to like be like one of the greatest criminals of all time. And he looks at me, he's like, Mijo, if you ever say that again, I'm gonna send you to military school. He's like, I think what you want to do is you want to be an actor because you're looking at all these guys pretend for a living. And they're all incredible pretenders. They bring this character, this personality, these little like mannerisms to life. And I see you trying to copy them, right? So my dad says, you should try it on acting school. I was like 10, 11 years old. And it actually wasn't my dad's advice. That was like the first domino, but it wasn't really his advice that sent me toward that path. It was more so, I was watching this show called Victorious. And for anybody that has watched, it's on Nickelodeon. And it's like a group of teenagers in high school. And they're all like pursuing music and acting and dancing. And it was so fascinating. And I always saw myself as like an introvert. So I was like, I could never do that. I wish I could do that, but there's no way, not me. Not this kid with vitiligo who's wearing, hoodies in 90-degree heat. Like there's no way. Like I'm just gonna go skateboard and that's it. But then what happened was I turned 16 and this belief was always there tapping on my shoulder like, hey, go try it out. Go try it on acting class. And I was 16. My dad got me my first car. Thank you. Shout out to my dad. And I was like, well, now I can go anywhere. And I don't live in LA, but I live close enough. It's like an hour and a half drive, but I have time. I got nothing else to do. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to Google the best acting studios near me and try and check it out. See if I like it. And, worst comes to worst, I look like a fool, but I don't know anybody there. So it's okay. It's so far away from my home that I'm willing to take the jump. I'm willing to take the risk. I think for a long time, I didn't want to take the risk because I was like, oh man, I'm in my hometown. We got that pretty girl I go to school with, and she's in my drama class. So I was always too shy, Even now to this day, I'm still really shy. But then I went, took that class, and I fell in love instantly. I fell in love. Time vanished. And that's when I knew, I was like, I have to do this for the rest of my life. I went to sleep that night and I was like, that was a day, man. Like I felt so much purpose and joy and like, I don't know, like this weird sense of like fulfillment that I just didn't get in anything else.
I hope you're enjoying this episode of You Versus You. If these conversations are inspiring you and are bringing value to your life, please make sure to subscribe, join the community, and don't forget to share with anyone who you think needs to hear this. Thank you for supporting the show. Now let's get back to our episode.
So then 2 years later, I moved to LA, packed my bags, told my dad, I was like, hey, this is what I want to try out. I don't know if I'm going to accomplish it, but I'm willing to roll the dice. Like I'm willing to just take a risk and try it out. And he says, you know what? Like you're young, you need to try it out because I don't want you to ever look back and be like, damn, I should have tried it out while I had the time. And then he said, worst comes to worst, you come back home and you start and you pick up where you left off. You know what I mean? So I was like, all right, that's what I'm going to do. I moved there. Luckily, I had my best friend, Felipe, who moved with me. So it wasn't as scary, and I kind of dragged him too. I was like, come on, bro. There's girls there for you, you're going to have a good time, you're going to fall in love. And he's like, the Silver Lake type. He had el pelo largo ahí. So I was like, we're moving nearby. You'll have a great time. So I got him I tricked him to come with me. And then I got a job, man. I started working my ass off, started doing Postmates, delivering pizzas, man, Chinese food, everything, working at a wood ranch. And then, at nights I would go to acting class 24/7. And that was my life. That was it. I didn't have time for hanging out. I didn't have time for friends back home. I had a relationship kind of crash down just because, being truthful, I didn't have time. And I take full accountability, but I was just on a mission, man. And the mission was worth it. And I'd like to say that it paid off. But at the time, not a lot of people believed in that mission. Like, oh man, this guy, what's he doing, man? He's going out to LA to chase his dream of acting, this and that. But that's the cold truth. Not everybody's going to see the goal. Not everybody's going to see the vision, and that's okay. They don't have to see the vision. You have to see the vision, and you have to see it as clear as day and have it mapped out as clear as day. And again, you have to have a plan and be able to adjust on the day because things are always going to change.
There's a lot of clarity to having vision, and I can relate to that story because I moved to LA in a similar task. I was flying back and forth from Miami working on productions, and one day I went to the W Hotel and I saw a friend and she was like, Lex, I just got here. She was an actor. Yeah. I just got here and my God, look at all the things that I'm doing. Mm-hmm. And that's not like early rush where you feel like you're being active, but now that you're in the business, you look back and you're like, I was actually not doing anything. I was really thinking I was being active. Yeah, just killing time with classes and stuff. But it's preparation.
Yeah.
And she hyped me up so much that I remember going back to the house we were staying at. I don't know if Ivan's here, but my partner, my whole career, he's here. And I remember walking in and saying, hey, man, it's November. By December 4th, I'm going to move to LA. And I was like, so I hope you're going to come. And I remember him getting in bed and saying, hey, don't talk to me. Because he knew I was so firm about it. But it was that same dedication, that same idea of understanding that there was something different, like you feel that.
Yeah.
And at that age, I didn't understand what that feeling was, right? Like, I think when you're going through it, and in hindsight, you look back and you're like, oh yeah, that was me trusting my gut. But in the moment, that's not really how you're processing the information. In that moment, you're just like blindly doing things.
Yeah.
Which to me is one of the most important things that I try to teach people now, which is that same feeling, that same emotion that you feel when you're super involved in something and everything starts happening. That's you breaking a belief system. Because in conversation, you said, well, I'm shy.
Yeah.
Right? Like that kid who was wearing hoodies all the time. Like, and we did that. I said, I was afraid. I thought I wasn't good enough. I like these limiting beliefs that are just, we identify with and say, well, this is just who I am.
Yeah.
But the truth is that as you enter any kind of vision, you start realizing that that's not really who you are.
Yeah.
That you're actually playing a role.
Yeah.
Very much like you're acting.
Yeah.
And one of the things I've started to practice in my life, and this is going to lead me to my next question, is can you live your life as the watcher and not as the guy acting? So what if everything that you're experiencing in life, right? Take fear. What if instead of saying, I'm afraid, you can stop and say, fear is present? Because the moment you evoked I am, you're just bringing that energy. I am shy.
Yeah.
But you're sitting in a theater full of people talking.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're really you know, the same thing.
Yeah.
I would say, I'm not good enough. And I would be accomplishing things like this. And I'd be like, it's, you know, the oxymoron of it.
Yeah, definitely.
To me, what we practice in our job, especially in the entertainment industry, relates a lot to what we can actually live in real life.
Yeah.
But back to the work, to you, what defines a good actor?
Wow. That's a loaded question. We're in 2025. I'll say this, the industry has changed so much. Growing up, I used to think that you had to be like Al Pacino, Robert De Niro, very mysterious, not share with the audience so that they could buy your art and your work. But like you said earlier, you know, we're always growing. We're always evolving, right? So as an artist, sometimes we think, oh, I don't want to show the world who I am because that's all of my tricks. That's all of me, you know, and I need to save some of me for my art, which is true. But I think something that a lot of actors, even myself, sometimes I confuse myself with thinking I'm showing all of who I am versus I'm showing just a piece of who I am. And the reason why is because I need the public to know me in order to support me. A lot of artists, they have it twisted. They think, oh, you got to support me so that you can know me. And it's like, no. They have to know you first, and then they'll support you. So I think in 2025, what makes a great actor and artist, let's stick with acting. I think somebody who isn't so attached to the outcome, whether it's getting those freaking tears coming out on screen, whether it's getting that emotional heartbreak on screen, breaking the audience's heart. I think somebody who's in the moment, somebody who's present, and somebody who's able to be spontaneous. The best acting, dude, is spontaneous. I've seen actors go into a scene where they're like, all right, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that. And they get exactly what they want. And it looks like shit. And then you get artists who go in, they're like, I have no idea what I'm gonna shoot. I have no idea what I'm gonna do. I might cry, I might laugh, I might scream, I might mumble. I don't know what I'm gonna do. And they get the best takes ever. And every take is different too. And then I ask them, like, dude, how did you do that? That little trick you did? They're like, I don't know, I just blacked out. I went in with preparation. I had a ballpark of choices that I was able to pick from. But in the moment, you just have to be present. And it's very similar to life. You have to be present because you might miss a golden opportunity. It might be a handshake. It might be a person you stumble across. It might be that you shot something and now you're able to share it with somebody at an event like this. It's the smallest things that you have to be ready for. So I think what makes a great actor is somebody who's present and somebody who's able to play. because there's this sense of like play that's so contagious. We see it in actors like Jamie Foxx, Will Smith, Denzel Washington. They're just so loose in the moment and they're having a good time doing their art. And that's something that you really can't fake. You can't BS. And the audience picks that up. And when you're playing, the audience is enjoying watching you play.
I love how many similarities in what you're talking about and what we talk here so much on the pod. Because again, being present,
Mhm.
right? Most of us are living experiences thinking about how it should be
Mm,
or what it could be instead
mhm.
of just this.
Yeah.
Like, I don't blame anybody, but there's most of us are in this theater,
Yeah.
and from one moment to the other, we're like, oh, I got to check on this thing on the phone.
Mhm.
Or, damn, I wonder how long this is going to take so I can leave. Or, you know, is there going to be something later because I want to go eat?
Mhm.
And it happens to all of us, right? We
Yeah.
all fall to that.
Yeah.
But another one of the good practices that we talk a lot about on the pod is you're actually just here. Like, a million things have to happen in perfect divine order
Yeah.
for every group and every person here to be even sitting here.
Yeah. Yeah.
You had to come. We had to be doing this event. A million things could have happened. Your flight could have been canceled, a
Yeah.
bunch of other things. But we're all here.
Mhm.
And one of the things that has started to really reshape my life is this idea of just be.
Mm.
Not try to be,
Mhm.
not want to be somewhere else, pretend
Mhm.
to be. It's just kind of just be.
Yeah.
You are here for a reason. The
Mhm.
moment is put in it. And the fact that you can relate that to acting to say, hey, the best actors, they're just are.
Mhm.
They don't go there today I'm going to get it right.
Yeah.
No, I spent a lot of time with a lot of amazing actors
Mhm.
like Will, and it's just this presence. Like they can just, it's not like, oh, I got to go read the script. He can sit here and all of a sudden he can
Mhm.
get really quiet.
Yeah.
And he can get into the moment and he can embark whatever emotion he's
Mhm.
trying to give you to the point that you don't even know what's right, what's real or not anymore because you're just like, whoa. But that's the reality of
Yeah.
the moments, right? Is how could you learn to be more present, more
Mm.
alive, in not thinking about what life could be or the moment could be,
Yeah.
but what it actually is.
And what I've learned is that it's a practice. A lot of people, including myself, I used to look at artists and actors and entertainers, and I would look at them and be like, how did they achieve that energy, that personality? How are they so quick? And how does their mind work like that? And what I failed to realize was they have done countless reps. They've been in the game. They've failed 1,000 times only to succeed once. And I think a lot of times, especially young artists, we look at like the greats or the people who are ahead of us and we're like, ah, shit, I'll never get there. Like as much as like I'm trying, I don't know if I'll ever get there. And you just have to take it day by day. It's like, I don't know if anybody's ever driven from Las Vegas to, or from California to Las Vegas, but like that road is so dark and it's so long. And if you drive at night, it feels like you're never going to get there. But you just have to focus on the next like 900 feet ahead of you and just keep doing that for 333 miles. It's the same thing in your journeys in life, in your career. You just have to focus on what's in front of you. Plan, obviously. But like I said, if there's a giant car in the middle of the road, you got to take a detour. And if you say, no, I'm doing this road my way, this way only, you're going to crash and you're going to burn. It's not going to work out. So you have to be able to adjust to what's in front of you. And again, focus on what's in front of you. A lot of people are like, including myself and my friends were always like, oh, I'm anxious. Even for this, I was like, oh, I'm anxious. What if I suck, man? What if this, that? But it's like, hey, you can't control tomorrow. You cannot control tomorrow. It doesn't exist. It's not real. And if you want to control yesterday, if you want to relate on or, kind of dwell on what happened yesterday, the way you can control tomorrow and the way you can control yesterday is to focus on now. Try and be present and try to control whatever that means, but try and just, use what's in front of you. Because then you're able to look back and be like, oh shit, we did an amazing conversation. We did an amazing podcast. I had an amazing show. We did an amazing shoot for the TV show. And that's all based on literally just being present and in the moment.
Yeah, the idea of future is so interesting, right? Because I would say 100% of people struggle with the past
Mhm.
and worry about the future. And the idea of the future is this idea that you actually will wake up tomorrow.
Yeah,
And
literally.
the truth is that, like you said, we are today who we were, you know, a year ago.
Yeah.
The habits and things we did at that point has led us to become who we are today.
Mm-hmm.
The habits and things that we will build today will allow us to become the person of tomorrow. And that's the idea of gift.
Mm-hmm.
We live in a society where I think a lot is said to be earned.
Mm.
I earned this job, or I earned this Rolex, or I earned
Yeah.
my fame, or I earned
Yeah, yeah.
whatever. And earn implies that you actually control something.
Mm-hmm.
And I say this a lot with athletes, for example. The gift of being a certain size,
Mm-hmm.
or being able to have reflexes in a certain way, that's a gift.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what we all are is shepherds of that gift, right? The gift of life,
Mm-hmm.
it's a gift,
Yeah.
because we don't even control our own breath. And when it comes to career, like acting, like being an athlete, like real estate, like any career, we tend to really put those two thoughts together. Okay, I'm going to start, being an actor. So I got the gift. I'm natural. I can pull this off. I can read. I can put emotional thought behind these words. So I am going to be a good shepherd of it by practicing it.
Mm-hmm.
But then in our lives, we don't view living as a gift.
Yeah.
So we treat our everyday lives without the idea of being a good shepherd of our lives. So it's a lot easier to eat whatever we want. It's a lot easier to just, ump around. It's a lot easier to stay lazy at home and not doing. It's a lot easier to just take life and say, oh, but I'm just wilding out and living with
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
are you being a good shepherd of your gift?
Yeah.
Because the truth is, it's a gift.
Yeah.
And we don't control when it will end. We don't control when it started.
Mm-hmm.
And in acting, what I wanted to learn actually, because I'm really interested in it, is there's a script. Right? There's an idea in words. Now, the art of bringing those ideas into life and making them become something, but then taking them with freedom towards this ending point.
Mm.
What did you do to shepherd that gift?
Yeah. I think there's this quote in a movie called A Star is Born with Lady Gaga and Bradley Cooper. If you guys have seen it, if you haven't, watch it. It's an incredible movie. But there's this quote Lady Gaga says, or it might have been Bradley Cooper's father, the actor that plays his father in the movie. And he says, it's all up to the artist and how they interpret the same chorus, verse, pre-chorus. Everybody could sing it. Some can sing amazing, some not as good. But it's up to the artist to really interpret that. It's the same thing with acting. Anytime I get a scene, anybody could say the lines. You can get anybody in the world to say the lines. That's not what the studio's paying you for. That's not what the casting director's hiring you for. That's not what the director's searching for. The director wanted that. He would cast the exact same person to play every single role, right? The artist has to interpret the material. They have to make it personal, specific, and it has to make sense. Acting is like connecting the dots. A lot of times, if you watch bad acting, the reason why it's bad is because it's not personal, it's not specific, and it's not connected. They're doing an idea of what they think they should be doing, and it's gonna come out bland. Sometimes some people can't even really describe why it's bad acting. It's bad acting because it doesn't mean anything to them, and if it doesn't mean anything to them, it's not gonna mean anything to the audience. So I think that's truly one of the biggest tips that I could give to any aspiring actor. It's anytime you read a script, and I'm guilty of this too. Sometimes I really can't connect to the script. Sometimes I'm like, who wrote this? This is awful, really bad, What you have to do is you have to play around. You have to improvise the scene, the dialogue. You're like, okay, maybe I wouldn't say that line, but for rehearsal sakes, let me just play around with it in my own language, the way I would speak, the way I talk to my friends, the way I talk to my girl, my boys, Let me kind of mess with the dialogue a little bit so I can really feel it and connect to it. Because language is the last thing that's important in acting. The words are the last thing that's important, really. Given you have to honor the writer, some directors are like, hey, every comma, every period, every word you have to say, otherwise, afuera,
Yeah.
And you got to respect that as an actor, right? You're part of the vision. You're not and as much as actors take all the glory, they're a part of the vision. So really, I think the words are the last important thing. The behavior, the emotion, how specific it is, how personal it is to you, that is the most important thing. I promise you. Maybe not Fincher, right? But if there's a scene and you're off by a couple words, but the emotion is so personal, so specific, so spontaneous. The director every time is gonna be like, that's the fucking take. We're not using the other ones. That's the one. Because it just, if it's personal to you, if it means a lot to you, it's gonna mean a lot to the audience. And we're connecting with cinema, we're connecting with movies and TV shows because at the end of the day, we're human beings. We wanna feel connected. We wanna feel like we're a fly on the wall, kind of observing the story. We can all relate, whether it's your trauma, my trauma, somebody out there, has trauma on a certain level that they can connect to. So I think if you're vulnerable about that and you're open about it and you're like, you know what, this is who I am, this is how I interpret the scene, that's what's gonna make it great.
Talking about On My Block.
Yeah.
So you walk in, first big role,
Yeah.
it explodes.
Yeah.
Now, the great thing about television, I think, especially in today's world, is that it builds a cult following,
Mhm.
right? And with that cult following, you also get a lot of expectations
Yeah.
because now you have to live up to those fans being like, we want this.
Yeah.
As an actor and as someone that's a part of the whole vision on the show,
Mhm.
after season one, this show blows up. How hard was to keep up the expectations of an audience that wanted the character to go somewhere? So when they were writing, when you guys were doing the table reads, for those of you that don't know, when you're doing any kind of television or film, you do a table read where everybody sits and you kind of go through the lines so everybody can get a good sense
they're all
of work.
taking, all the execs are
All
taking
everyone's
notes.
taking notes.
And then you're like, shit, did I say that?
Exactly.
Was I awful? What happened there? Why are they taking notes?
Thankfully, I've never sat in your position. I only sat on the guy taking the notes and saying, yeah, no, Diego didn't nail that.
Yeah.
How hard was it after the success of that first season to keep that fire going?
I think personally, the fire was really hard to keep going the first season for me because I felt this huge amount of imposter syndrome. I was like, dude, I'm gonna get fired tomorrow. I don't know what day, but I'm gonna get fired. I do not belong here. I do not belong here. I've been taking acting classes for 9 months. There's no way. Like I just had this huge amount of imposter syndrome, and it happened so fast. It happened my first year when I moved to LA. Moved to LA at 18, and at 19, I was working on a Netflix show. So I had this huge amount of imposter syndrome, and I kept having to tell myself over and over again, you belong here. You belong here. You belong here. And eventually what happens is you just make it like across the finish line and you can breathe. You're like, oh my God, I finished the show, And luckily there's no reshoots, right? But actually the second season, I came into it kind of with this looseness and freedom. I actually like the second season the best out of the entire 4 seasons. That was probably the riskiest I've ever been with acting, just because I wanted to play so badly. I saw the response that the audience had to the show and I was like, oh, hell yeah, you guys like it? Bet, okay. So it gave me this illusion of confidence, but I walked into the next season and I was like, all right, let's play around. Let's take some risks. I feel like I had to keep that fire in my own personal life because when you're 19 and you're getting thrown money and you're getting thrown opportunity, everybody tells you how great you are and this and that, and all of that shit's an illusion, by the way. It kind of it didn't get to my head in an ego way, but it got to my head in a way where I was like, I'm set. I'm good, bro. I'm good. You know what I'm saying? I don't need to audition. I'm good. I would show up to meetings with directors and I'd be like, I'd come from a party, no sleep. I'd go, show up just not prepared as I should have been, because again, I had this, which worked for some parts as an artist. Sometimes the chaos is good, but sometimes there's a healthy balance to it, right? But yeah, I feel like I kind of deprived myself of this creative fire. There's a lot of things that, again, I look back in time, I'm like, dude, why weren't you hovering over the director? Because now I'm really fascinated with directing. And I'm like, I did 40 episodes and I didn't once hover over my director to see what they were doing or ask questions in regards to the technical aspect or the art side of it. And I look back now and I'm like, get mental, how did you not, what I mean? But you can't beat yourself up on it. I was young. But yeah, I think that creative fire was something that I had to keep up more so. And the way that I've, kind of gotten that creativity back, that fire, has actually been through music, truly. Because it's very similar. It's strange, but it's really similar. You have a song, it's the same thing as having a movie. You do you're present, you do the performance, you do this, then you do the marketing, right? And again, you have to have the sense of play. If it sounds too you're not having fun, then it's gonna read. So I just got that spark back truly with my creative fire, and I'm having a blast right now, creating content with my friends in the studio, just messing around, trying different things, you know. So yeah, I actually just got that, you know, fire right now with music. With movies, it's still there. I got a few more projects lined up, so I'm excited to go on set and kind of have that fire back, you know.
How do you feel about fame?
Dude, it's an illusion. It's an illusion, I think. I think it's I always tell this story. My friends are always laughing. I used to go to this Rite Aid after acting class every single day. And anytime I had a bad class, actually, and I'd be like, fuck, man, that was a terrible class. I was like, let me go get some ice cream, you know, cheer myself up, you know. And I remember going to this Rite Aid, y había una niña ahí que she never paid me the time of the day, bro. Never, nunca me, she wouldn't even bat an eye, bro. And I was the same, you know, 18, 19, you know, and given, so I wouldn't either if I saw me, you know, but, you know, what happened was the show came out one day and then I was still going to acting class after that. And then I pull up to the Rite Aid store. Same Rite Aid, same girl, same ice cream, same everything, same cone, everything, you know, same outfit, I think, too.
You
know?
were just different.
Same outfit, right? But, you know, at the time, everybody, you know, saw the
Yeah.
show. So I was like, all right. Y luego me dice, oh my God, tú eres ese que salió en el show. Can I get a photo, please? I'm a big fan, this and that. I'm like, I've been coming here every day for 9 months. Like, and you never once even cared to like ask me how my day was. Nothing, you know what I'm saying? Or when I would ask you how your day was going, you know, you'd roll your eyes. And it was one of those things where it kind of hit me. I was like, oh, this is all an illusion. The public rewards you as an artist or as an entrepreneur or as whatever you are for what you do in private. So what you do in private gets rewarded by the public. Sometimes we start getting it twisted. We're like, oh, everything I'm doing in public is making me loved by the public. No, it's what you do behind the curtain. All that hard work, all of those late nights where nobody's watching, all of that, you have to trust the vision again. All of that is going to get you to whatever that you know, fame is, or I like to say exposure, you know, because your art kind of gets, you know, thrown to the world so everybody sees it. I think it's an illusion. I think it gets to a lot of people. I think when I was young, I think I kind of like, I liked the attention, truly, when I was younger. Now it's more so I look at it as a tool. At the end of the day, studios, they love numbers. So yeah, I'm kind of just, I'm actually learning to have a lot of fun with it right now. Just like not be so serious about it and
Yeah.
just kind of fucking like play, you know, with social media and all the stuff. Even the content I'm putting out right now, like I'm not trying to be serious at all. Half the time I'm just trolling. But I'm having so much fun doing it, and it's, you know, and it's gotten us a lot of cool opportunities.
I find fame really interesting, and I've been blessed enough to be around a lot of famous people throughout my career. I've received a lot of acclaim through my work with those people, but one of the things that I always saw from the outside and even experienced it myself is you could be really famous in one room, and be very little in another.
Yeah.
And I've seen this with a lot of people. I've seen an actor friend of mine who can walk into one room and everybody recognizes and everybody's like, oh my God, it's like, this is incredible. And then walk into wanting to go to a really hot party during the Grammys and the bouncer saying, hey, bro, I don't know who you are. You're
Yeah.
gonna stand outside.
Yeah.
And seen the conflict, you know. I've also been able to see the top of the food chain, super extremely famous, go through hardship, and the crowd is like, well, nah, I'm good if you don't come to my party today. It's really interesting because the concept of people admiring, I always ask why. Like, why is the reason we admire people at a level of diehard fame? Right? Because there's a different thing where you say, hey, I respect what you do, man. I'm like, you know, I admire you. I get inspired by you. And then there's the, oh my God, I just want to like touch you and have a picture with you and like, and that level of craziness in it.
Yeah.
And this is the conclusion I came in. Now, this is just my thoughts, disclaimer. This is not a certified conclusion by the Department of whatever it is. But this is my conclusion. We are all superheroes. But we've been programmed by society, by our way of being taught when we grew up to lack. So we always feel like, well, if I don't have the Rolex or the Gucci, then I'm not good enough. And they sell you that because that's what they want you to feel. Like if you gotta have the latest bag, you know?
Yeah.
If I don't do this, I won't get to heaven, or I won't.
Yeah.
And you grow up with this identity and this idea that you're just not enough. And so I've interviewed a lot of really successful people on this show, and most, including this one sitting here talking, we talk about the imposter syndrome. And it's how many of us are accomplishing things while sitting down saying, oh, but this is going to crash because I'm not good enough. And I started to really think, like, how is it possible that you're at a level of fame or a level of wealth? Like, you're at the premiere of a movie. You're so good that your first show was a hit show. Like, how good are you that you are, but yet you don't feel? And I truly believe that the reason why we admire people and are so crazy is because we see ourselves. Because the obsession we have with superheroes is because we see ourselves. We see what we could be. And we feel, I generally think that we all look at that and say, that could be me. And I have this thing that I always share with my partner where I say, I'll send them something like, this company went for $1 billion. And I say, why not us? Right? Like, we could do it.
Yeah.
Why couldn't we start a coffee brand? Which, by the way, would be great if I get a refill on this. Why not start a coffee brand? Why not start a film festival? Why not be on a hit show? And so I find that a lot of the reason why once you have the fame comes that uncomfortableness is the same reason. If you look at most superhero movies, the conflict is the superhero doesn't believe he's good enough. Right? Superman doesn't know why he's here in that new film, for example. And the crisis is that he grew up believing that he was here to save planet Earth. And then, the bad guy uses Lex Luthor uses the
It's a great movie,
great movie, the video to tell him. Iron Man, no, I could never be that. And we love those movies because we're watching our own story. We know we have all this potential. Everybody here has that potential. We wanted to fly one day, and now we fly in a tin can. We wanted to go to the depths of the ocean, and now we do it. There's people here that can post, like yourself, one story about a product and sell the product out. People here that started selling one house for their first time and now sell $1 million houses, or start, I know a lot of people here started a film company and now are Oscar winners or whoever it is. I truly believe we are all superheroes going through an inner struggle and an inner battle of identifying and believing that we can actually fly. And that's why I think fame feels so uncomfortable. Because in hindsight, it creates a lot of pressure, but it's a beautiful thing. Right? To your point, it gives you opportunities. I always say, like, the best part of my life is not the wealth, it's the wealth of experiences. The fact that I can say, I want a film festival, and now I want Diego. And you would be kind enough to say, I'll go talk to Lex.
I came for the coffee.
Yeah, definitely for the coffee, which is great, 0 to 60. Make sure to get that brand plug. And so that brings me to my next thing. What do you think life has been trying to teach you that you keep running away from?
Two things. I think one is to not take life so seriously. I think for a majority of my career, I was like, everything has to be perfect. Everything, the way I talk, the way I show up to that carpet, everything has to be perfect. And I think for a long time, I had a lot of friends tell me, like, bro, chill out. Like, ya calmadito, bro. Like, not everything has to be the way you want it to be, man. Like, relax. Or like, show the world who you are. Like, quit trying to be this person that it's gonna exhaust you. It's gonna burn you out. And I think for a long time, I was like, nope, that's not the way the movie stars. That's not the way that's how my idols were. And now I'm coming to realize it's so liberating just being yourself. Obviously, work on yourself. If you don't know certain things, don't put up a front and act like you know what you're talking about and lie, Educate yourself, learn, practice, repetitions again, and then just be you. Like, it's the most liberating thing, being able to come on a stage or go anywhere and just be myself. I don't have to be this persona or this illusion of what I think I have to be. it gives you this freedom it's really indescribable. You're just like, you can, it's really hard to explain, but I'm just starting to realize it and learn it. Not just like me as a here being present, but like literally just on social media too. For the longest time, I was like, dude, everything has to be perfect, everything. And it's like, what I failed to realize is, man, people don't connect with perfect anymore because we're all flawed. I'm flawed, you're flawed, everyone here is flawed. We all have our flaws and insecurities and trauma and vulnerabilities. And I think for the longest time, I thought I had to be perfect. And that's what was separating me from really connecting with my audience, with my people. Because they're like, oh, I can never be him. Like he's doing this, he's doing that. It's like, well, did you guys also know that like I wore long sleeve t-shirts from the time I was 9 to like 18? I had the craziest, most disgusting tan line on my fingertips because I was so insecure about my skin when I was like a teenager. Like, and now that I'm sharing all this stuff, people are like, oh my God, I have vitiligo too. Like how did you manage it? And I'll DM them back really quick, like, yo, you just gotta be confident, hit the gym, do this, eat healthy, and you'll feel good. And if you feel good mentally, you'll start to like show the world that you are good. So that's one thing I'm learning. And another thing that I'm learning too is letting go of the past. I think I have a hard time with that still to this day, if I'm being honest. I have a hard time letting go of the past. And I'm always like, oh man, if only I would have done this move at that time with this person and made this move, I would be on top and this and that and that and that and that. And it's one of those things where it's just not real, man. It's not real. And it's just such a mental roadblock to carry. And there's a difference between baggage and luggage, One just feels like the weight of the world is on you, and another one's like, hell yeah, I got my bag, I got my stuff in here. Oh, what, I need my headphones, I can pull them out, So one feels like a privilege, and another one kind of feels like torment, where it's just haunting you 24/7. And you got to understand that in life, yeah, you can try to carry all that baggage with you, but it's only going to slow you down. It is only going to weigh you down. It is only going to slow your journey down from getting to where you want to be. So there comes a point where, you just got to say, you know what? I am what I am. I've done what I've done. This is who I am. I'm alive. I have friends that have passed, due to drugs. I have friends who, passed from leukemia. And every day I wake up now and I'm like, dude, God, I'm just grateful to be here. Give me my health. I'll take care of the rest. Maybe, give me an opportunity with Lex Borrero, to do a podcast, that'd be cool, that'd be cool. But at the end of the day, if you have your health, guys, you have more than enough. You have the potential to create anything.
Talking about finding yourself, we say that a lot easier than what it is, right? Like, it's like, yeah, but this is just who I am. I used to say that all the time. That was my way to get away with things. Oh, you don't like it? Well, this is the way I am. And then I would sit back after and sit like, am I really that? Or is that my trauma speaking? Or am I really that? Is that a belief system that I believe that, oh, I can't do this because this is who I am. Like, I don't want to do that because I don't. What have you found to be helpful to start identifying the things in you that are coming off to be a truer version of who you are? Because I think there's mix, like I said, there's mix on that. For me, it was a lot of turmoil. And it wasn't until I started understanding that this idea of right or wrong, this idea of the things that I thought is so fragile.
Yeah.
Because I'll get, you could tell me something today and I'll take it a certain way because I'm just stressed out. And tomorrow you'll say the same thing and I'll be like, oh yeah, that was, and I started happening to me with a lot of things that I would say, oh, but this is just who I am. And it wasn't until I started to really identify, more importantly, what was the essence that I wanted to live.
Yeah.
Like success was one of those things. Because I came in an era, and I'm a lot older than you, but I came in an era where all you got taught was like, you better hustle. You want to be successful, you better work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Matter of fact, include an 8th day in there just because, like, forget your food, work hard, be an intern. Like nowadays, interns, I have interns now, and it's like, oh my God, you guys are living the life. You guys get coffee breaks and salaries and stuff. I was an intern. I said, you better go get me the 10 coffees. And if one of them comes not hot, you're going back and getting them all over again. Man. And so I grew up with this idea and this mentality around success that it meant I had to sacrifice everything. And that was my first fight. Because if you would ask me 2 years ago, who are you, Lex? Hi, I'm Lex Ware. I'm the CEO of Neon 16.
Mm-hmm.
I am very successful.
Mm-hmm.
I work my ass off.
Yeah.
You asked me that today, I just say, hey, I'm Alejandro Borrero.
Mm.
That's a huge change for me because my whole identity was around the who I was. So I would walk in and say, hey, I'm so-and-so's manager.
Yeah.
That's how I would start the conversation in order to feel valued so that you would think I'm interested enough to talk to so I can get what I needed done.
Yep.
Which while it served, because we live in a world where this
Sure.
counts, it became my identity. It became the character I started to play in order to do. And I started to challenge that by completely realizing, what if I do less? What if my body today doesn't feel like it can get up, right? I'm gonna give it a rest.
Yeah.
What if I don't work the 20-something hours a day every single day? What if I don't take the things that are stressing me? Just stress alone. Like I used to be all the time, and I was like, I just throw a freaking phone off. Like I was that guy.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And I started like, why am I stressed? This idea that if I don't do this right now, I'm gonna fail. It's just a belief.
Yeah.
The idea that if I work less, I'm not gonna make more comes back to, oh, well, then I'm actually earning this.
Yeah.
And if I'm earning this, is that really true? Because I can, God forbid, not have a next breath.
Yeah.
So I started to let go. So I started to find that in my personal life, the finding who I was by letting go of anything that tied me to something else. So the idea was, if I don't work hard, I'm going to be successful. Okay, well, actually, I'm going to work less and see what happens. I'm going to take more time off.
Yeah.
And that came, I had a call with a friend of mine who's a billionaire.
Yeah.
And this is for all business people here because it changed my life. We were talking on the phone and he said, Lex, so what's your plan this year? And I said, Steve, I don't even know what my tomorrow looks like. And he laughed and he said, you're not rich enough. And I was like, you're an asshole. And he said, no, Lex, why do you not know what the rest of your year looks like? I was like, Steve, because my life is every day. I'm hustling in it. He says, Lex, are you a CEO or you're an employee? And I said, I don't understand. He said, well, if you're a CEO, your only goal is to create the vision. If you're executing the vision, that means you've hired wrong. You can't create a vision and have clarity unless you take time. You can't take time unless you know when you're taking time. He said, you are making decisions for your life every single day while sitting in a car listening to hard rock music, trying to decide right or wrong. So first, there's no right or wrong. Second, get yourself out of the car. You are going to miss 100% of the opportunities, not of the shots you don't take, of the shots you don't see. Most of us don't see.
Yeah.
Because we are trying to do.
Yeah.
So we spent our whole lives doing. So many times a friend invites you and says, hey, let's go to dinner tonight. No, I can't do it tonight. And you stop realizing that at that dinner, your life could have changed.
Yeah.
I have a friend here who actually is a partner at 060, and we've met multiple times. But in a year, we would always just meet, and every time we were like, oh, let's do something, we never did it. And when we were looking at the building for 060, I said, man, we've known each other now for almost 2 years. And I was too busy to give you even 5 minutes. Today, he's a partner because now we give our, he jokes, he's like, oh, I'm on calling now. You actually call me. But shout out to the sisters over here. But it impacted me because we always hear you miss 100% of the chances you don't take. And he said, nope. The ones you don't see. And the idea of right or wrong, the idea that there's this thing that's happening, he said, it's just lack of clarity.
Yeah.
When you don't have clarity, you can't build a vision. You can't even build yourself.
And I want to add on to that. I think social media right now, in the time of 24/7 comparison, is not only giving us that lack of clarity, but it's blurring our visions as individuals, as entrepreneurs, as creatives. So then it makes us think, I gotta work, 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 work. What you fail to realize is sometimes when you try to take 10 steps forward, it might cost you 18 steps back. But by taking one step back, not 100, not 1,000, just one step back to breathe, get that vision, get that clarity, it might give you 1,000 steps forward. It's like I don't know if anybody watches mixed martial arts here, but you don't need to throw 1,000 punches. You just need that one shot to get that KO. Sometimes it's actually the opposite. The martial artist who's throwing 1,000 punches ends up getting knocked out sometimes, right? Sometimes they win by decision, complicated sport, right? But what I'm getting at is you need that clarity. You need to take that step back to see the opportunity to strike and then go full force.
Yeah, clarity is really important. I heard you talk on a podcast you did with one of your cast members from On My Block. And you said the truth is the most important thing.
Mm-hmm.
What is your truth?
I think my truth is always evolving. I think as of now, realizing, like I've been saying, I'm not perfect. I'm very flawed. I got a lot of things in my life that, I've battled with and I'm still battling with, but every day I choose to embrace them. I used to ignore things and just let it go. And eventually what would happen was it all cook up and then it explode, right? So I'm learning, my truth is knowing that I have so much to learn, knowing that I'm not, I said this the other day, I will always look at myself as an upcoming artist, actor, entrepreneur, because I don't want there to ever be a day where I'm like, done, it's done, everything's good, I don't got to do nothing, because that's exactly how everything comes crashing down. Every day is day one, okay? Day one, we're starting fresh. I don't care about that L. Don't let an L break you, and don't let a W break you either. Because a lot of times people get, whether it's business, music, acting, they get a W and they're like, we're done, we're set, that's it. And it's like, okay, bet. That's gonna be your downfall right there. So I think my truth is accepting myself as an upcoming artist, actor, and human being too. There's so many things that I need to learn and that I'm working on, and being okay with that. I used to go into Barnes and Nobles as a kid, man. I used to see every book. I want to read every book. I need to know everything that's in here. Like, I want the information to every source. And that would overwhelm me so much that I wouldn't do anything. I wouldn't pick up the first book. So I'd be like, oh, I want this book and this book. I'm gonna read 10 pages here and then 10 pages there. And then it's like, where is your focus going? You're trying to spread yourself thin. You have to focus. It's one step at a time. And eventually what happens is, it's like that saying, you build that house brick by brick, and before you know it, you have an entire house. It's the same thing with life, business, relationships with your partner, So yeah, I guess that's my truth right now. Just understanding and accepting that it's a ride. I'm on the ride, for better or worse. It's going to get bumpy. There's going to be a shitty tomorrow. There's going to be a really bad tomorrow. There's going to be a great tomorrow. And understand that that's not going to make me, So yeah, that's my truth as of now.
I got a couple pictures to show you, but before we do that, I think it's really interesting because I really believe in the power of words, right? And like you, I used to say, tomorrow's going to be shit or this.
Yeah.
And I used to say, life is a roller coaster.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, so you have two choices in the roller coaster, right? You're either, or you're like, yeah.
Yeah.
And then someone told me, why don't you just not get on the roller coaster? And it's like that same thought and idea of everything's just perception.
Mm-hmm.
So if you perceive everything that life throws at you as just is, it's not neither good or bad. It just is. You can emotionally feel it, right? You can cry, you can smile, but it just is. Yeah. And with that, there's some life moments that your team has been really amazing at sharing with us.
They send you. Let's
that
see.
I wanted to give you and see what emotion these pictures bring to you. So I have this picture of you.
Oof, that's an oldie. That's when I was leaving my hometown to move to LA. Man, look at my cheeks. That's a baby right there.
What was that kid thinking in that picture?
I was dude, I'm be honest, I was so sad, bro. I was so sad and nervous and scared. And I was like, dude, I think I just messed up my life moving to LA. I was like, this is going to be awful. And I had like a girlfriend back home, and I was like, that relationship's not gonna go well. Dios mío. But what happens is you just, I had two choices. I was like, well, no one's holding a gun to my head. I don't have to move. I want to move. And it's a privilege to be able to move. So I was like, you know what? I'm sad, but this will pass. This will pass. Oh man, I was mad right there. They misspelled my name. It says Diego Tinoco. I was like, who the hell? But yeah, I was mad that day actually. That day I was actually like, I was in third grade and I was like, man, one day no one's gonna misspell my name. But they still misspell it. They missay it too. They're like, Diego Tinoco.
It's okay. Everybody says my last name all wrong, including you, but I'm gonna let it slide.
Oh, shit.
I'm just kidding. What about this?
All right. That was the day. I remember listening to a song called This Is the Day by The. They played in Guardians of the Galaxy. But I listened, that was back in 2017. I bumped that song in the morning. I remember listening to that song and the lyrics, I don't know if anybody's ever heard it, but it goes, this is the day your life will truly change. And that day, my life truly changed. And that day I showed up prepared. It's crazy what happened. Studying for 1 hour changed my life. I wasn't gonna go to that audition. I wasn't gonna show up. I was like, nah, this audition, this is gonna be, it's not gonna do anything for me. It's just another audition. I'm gonna get told no. I was gonna go out that night. I had plans with friends. And what happened was I said, no, you know what? I'm gonna sit down. I'm gonna study because this is part of the goal. This is part of the mission. This is the character that I want to be in my life. Somebody who shows up, whether it's a relationship, work, business, whatever. And I sat down, sacrificed 1 hour of my time, and that 1 hour changed my entire life. Because the next day I showed up prepared. I was in the moment, able to play. But who I was in that moment came from who I was yesterday. Because I was just prepared. And given, I was at Travieso, in the audition room, I told the other guys, I was like, bro, I wouldn't even go in there. I just killed it. Like, you got no shot, I was trying to get in their heads, as a kid. But yeah, that day changed my life. And I'm so grateful. And it's truly crazy to see what you were saying earlier, when you're present, the amount of opportunities that are available, you can see all the shots now. You said earlier, you miss 100% of all the shots you can't even see. That's so true. But what happens when you can see them? And what happens when you're prepared? It's a different game.
So we always end the podcast with one question. We've spoken about the power of words, the power of being present. And what I've realized is we're a lot more thoughtful and nice to others than we are with ourselves. But the thing is, you're with yourself more than you are with anybody else. Yeah. So what is one word or one phrase that Diego needs to hear in order to take this day and the rest of this week in a different way?
Sure. Let it go. Give it to God. Truly. At the end of the night, let it go. Give it to God. Don't dwell on it. Don't beat yourself up. All that's going to do is cause you anxiety, sleepless nights, and it's going to affect you like a bad domino cycle, So let it go. Give it to God. You wake up, that's day one. Start fresh. Whatever argument you have with your spouse, start fresh. Hey, love, how you doing? How you feeling? You feel better? Start fresh. Because you never know, man. It might be your last day. But, today's a beautiful day. So let's leave it, end off on a positive note, let go, give it to God, and do it with love. Yeah.
Love that. Diego, thank you so much. And thank all of you guys for being a part of You Versus You.
Guys. Thank you. I
appreciate you.
Thank you, man.
Thank you, guys. Thank you guys for tuning in to You Versus You. Please subscribe, like, and share as we build this community and we help each other to live the life of our dreams.